Do you love coffee? I love coffee. Have you ever felt a compelling need to have coffee or tea? Why this happens? Why do we get addicted? This is Curious Kanya. Let's find out. Addiction is a psychological and physical inability to stop consuming a chemical, drug, or to stop doing an activity even if it is causing harm. Brain's reward system gives us feeling of pleasure by releasing a neurotransmitter called dopamine when we perform our favorite activities like cooking, eating, or listening to music. The same brain circuitry is activated when someone consumes drug. Dopamine shows its effects on neuron through dopamine receptors, and neurons generate a feel good factor. For example, you eat a burger, you like it, it tastes so good. You might want to have another one, right? Now, what happens is these repetitive behaviors become a habit, and after a long period of time, it leads to addiction. Things like food, gaming, coffee are less addictive in comparison to drugs. Things are little different with drugs. Some drugs have a similar structure to other neurotransmitters and they can trick our brain in generating the same feel-good factor. And some drugs have a prolonged effect of dopamine on neurons. This causes dopamine signaling impairment and eventually disorders like OCD and drug addiction. As people continue with their addictive habits, brain tries to reestablish a balance between dopamine surge and normal level of dopamine. To do this, it reduces the number of dopamine receptors. Now, that means an individual have to consume more drugs to achieve the same high. Now you have to have one extra cup of coffee or you have to play one extra match to generate that same feel good factor. And if you don't do that, you might feel sad. And in extreme cases, you might feel anxiety, depression, or even physically ill. The story doesn't end here. Drugs also alter gene expression and epigenetic mechanism. Changes in chromatin structure occurs throughout life and have a lifetime effect on us. During post-translational modifications, chromatin changes, DNA-related processes changes to activate or suppress a gene which are needed at the point of time. Drugs also trigger some post-translational changes. These changes sit in our chromatin material in an inactive form, and because they do so, there is a high chance that any environmental stimulus can trigger relapse. Let's say if a person who used to do drugs comes in contact with the same environment where they first took drugs, it might trigger drug use in them again. Researches have been done to understand how short-term usage of drugs can lead to long-lasting risk of relapse. In an experiment, rodents were trained to press the lever to receive a dose of cocaine. Every time they received a dose, a lamp went on above the lever and a beep sound generated. These served as environmental stimulus for the drug use. In another batch of rodents, a chemical was given which slows down the connection formation between the stimulus and the drug use. All the rodents given a rest for a week and then exposed to environmental stimulus, the lamplight and the beep sound. Every time they were presented with these cues, it triggered rigorous liver pressing. But the rodents who were given the chemical which prevents behavior formation were not pressing the liver, proving associations between drug and environment persist in the brain. This research also shows that it is possible to reduce the risk of relapse in drug users. There is also a novel area for anti-addiction pharmacotherapies, which restores normal function of proteins. Fight with addiction is not easy. It's hard when you try to quit but can't. That's why we should always encourage and give support to those who want to quit. This has been Curious Kanya. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.